normal. Before we get into things, I'll start with a quick introduction. So my name is Mark Locker. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Attractions.io. And my background is one that's really seen the attractions industry from many different angles. So first of all, I've worked in the attractions industry at one of the UK's largest theme parks, Alton Towers. I've also been, and very much still am, an avid visitor of attractions. I've been with friends, I've been as a romantic couple, I've been with a family, as a family with small children. So I've been through a number of the different demographics and cohorts as well as a visitor. And now Attractions.io, the business that I run, helps attractions to leverage technology to improve the guest experience. So I've been an employee, I've been a consumer, and I've been a supplier to the industry. And so you might ask the question, why should you listen to me when it comes to a discussion about a connected digital experience? Well, through Attractions.io, that's what we focus on every single day. So Attractions.io is a mobile app platform that powers better guest experiences for millions of visitors across the globe, spanning across 4 different continents and over 10 different languages. And we're really fortunate to work with some fantastic world-renowned brands. And personally, for over a decade now, I have lived and breathed technology in the attraction space. I'm very passionate about how you can connect it all together to create a better experience. And that is exactly what today's session is going to be about, because we're going to be talking about that and how you can make a difference to your guest experience. Now, I'm going to take you through 3 things today. The first is around the problem with today's visitor experiences. Why bother trying to design something that's better if actually it's already okay? And so we look at the frustrations, the inefficiencies, and everything that's broken with experiences today. Secondly, I'm going to look at some important trends and the opportunities that they present. So visitor expectations and behaviors were already changing incredibly rapidly. But of course, with COVID-19, that's been accelerated even further. And so we'll be looking at that. And then finally, and this is really the important bit, is how you can leverage these opportunities so that you can drive results at your attraction. Now, it's often really hard to know where to start. And so what I'm going to do today is guide you through some practical steps and exercises that you can do and you can implement right away to help you start to think about how you can design and implement a better experience for your guests and drive more impact for your business. So today's visitor experiences then. The experience of visiting theme parks, zoos, resorts, or other entertainment venues is outdated and disjointed, which might be a statement that sounds a little bit dramatic. I go to many attractions, as I mentioned, and clearly you can go and have a great day out. But what I would say is it can definitely be so much better. And I think there are 3 main areas where this is the case. First of all, we've got guest frustrations. So guests have to put up with numerous friction points, like queuing up, just from the moment you arrive, finding where to park. And it's hard to know how to get the most out of your visit. I always think, if an alien was beamed down from outer space and they just looked at some of our visitor attractions, particularly maybe first thing in the morning, and they were observing people arriving and kind of queuing up to pick up a piece of paper so that they can go through a gate, and then they just looked at the experience, they'd be thinking, what are you doing? There's got to be a better way of handling these situations. So there's guest frustrations, but there's also a lack of influence, and this is on the business side. So marketers have no way of really communicating with or influencing their guests once they're through the gate. And so, often you'll use email, you'll use social media and things to communicate with your guests and potential visitors. But once they're on site, very, very limited on how you can influence them. And that's a shame, because that's where the experience is actually happening. And that's where, you can have a lot of impact. And then the third thing is a lack of data. So operators have really a very limited means of making data-driven decisions that can help improve business performance within an attraction setting. And again, if you look towards a lot of online businesses, e-commerce and things like that, there's so much you can do. You can know about every single interaction, everything a visitor to your website is doing, all the funnels, all the drop-off ratios. There's so much data there that you can use to make data-driven decisions that you know will improve the business. But in an attraction setting, in a physical environment with real guests coming through the gate, it's not the same. And so there's a lack of data that allows us to really drive things forward. And these are, I think, three key areas that really are lagging behind and that we can do so much better on. And today's webinar is going to be focusing mainly on the first point, which is around guest frustrations. And to focus on that, what you really need to start by doing is looking at the guest journey. So for those who haven't explored a guest journey before, it's really very straightforward. So your guest journey is basically a list of all the steps that your guests take, all the experiences they have from start to finish. So this is every single interaction from the moment they think, where can I go this weekend with the kids, right through to that was amazing, what a fantastic day, what should we do next? Now, we will come back to this in a moment, but before that, I just wanted to add some additional context about our changing world. Now, if you put COVID-19 just to the side for a moment, guest expectations were already changing at a record pace, and it's being driven by a few things, I think, combined. The first of which is demographics. Guest demographics are undoubtedly changing. Gen Zs will be the largest consumer group by 2026. These are individuals who are true digital natives. They have grown up with Google and YouTube and smartphones and know nothing else. And this leads to a different set of expectations. So today's consumers, they're less tolerant of waiting. They're less tolerant of friction. They hate the idea of wasting time. And why is this? Well, I don't believe it's because they are inherently, bad humans or impatient or, entitled necessarily. It's actually just because that's the environment they've grown up in. It's the experiences that they've been used to. The likes of Netflix and Uber and Amazon. These are seamless, connected experiences. They are the norm in other industries. Personalization. It's no longer really a nice to have. It's expected. If you log into Netflix, it's going to show you what you're going to enjoy. If you go into Amazon, it's going to promote things relevant to you. And so, all of these brands, they're instant, they're on demand. Amazon same day delivery, instant movie access, instant access to grab a ride with Uber. So these are the new expectations, and these are big changes, and they do pose a really big questions for our industry. And that, of course, is before you go and throw a global pandemic into the mix. And so COVID-19 undoubtedly itself has accelerated the pace even further, and our reliance on technology. It's done this around communication. We've had to implement things for social distancing, of course, contactless interactions. And so I think the bottom line is that attractions really need to modernize their experiences to better meet the needs of today's consumers. And COVID-19 has almost acted as a little bit of rocket fuel for what was already happening, and particularly on the side of operators' urgency to implement some of these changes. And here are just a few snippets of research in some of these areas. So on the demographic front, I've already mentioned this one about Gen Z being the largest consumer group by 2026. We also have 78% of millennials rather spending money on experiences than physical goods. A lot of us will already know this one. Obviously great for us as that's what we're providing. 95% of millennial consumers say they want brands to court their loyalty as well. And if we go into the expectations side of things, 70% of consumers say that a company's understanding of their personal needs influences their loyalty. That is basically the fact that, customers expect to be treated like humans and individuals, not just a number. That's a personalization point again. 72% of consumers will only engage with personalized marketing messages. Now, to me, the more stark way of looking at that is that it means only 28% engage with non-personalized marketing. So again, there's a huge shift there. Digital natives have zero tolerance for idle time. Now, this was from a 3-month study that took place across 5 continents, and there were a number of findings, but one was that there's no tolerance for idle time. And the result really was that there was the sheer prospect of having nothing to do makes the digital generation feel uncomfortable. That is the takeaway there. And we know from our own research that queuing remains a top issue. And I think it was back in 2017, Nick Varney, Merlin CEO, he reasserted this with his opening keynote at the IAPA Expo. And I'd go one step further. I would say that this is something it's not just still the number one frustration. I think it's getting worse because, you know, these kind of frustrations around wasting time, as we've just highlighted, the generations coming through that they increasingly don't want to put up with that. And so in summary, you know, guests want personalized experiences. They want it to be free of idle time. And again, going on to the experiences side of things, for digital natives, online and offline is completely interconnected, and the barriers between digital and physical cease to exist. You can kind of see this with the Uber example, right? Where your phone is connected to the internet, to satellites. You know, you're interacting on that screen and that device. You tap a button and then a car arrives and pulls up ready to take you on your journey. And that is starting to blur those lines. 90% of mobile time is spent on apps, and 70% of e-commerce sales worldwide will be transacted on a mobile device in 2020. You cannot underestimate the impact of these changes, that most of e-commerce is happening on mobile devices. And on the subject of COVID-19, IAPA actually issued some comprehensive reopening guidance for attractions, which if you hadn't already read it, is worth taking a look at. And it suggests lots of different technologies that can be used. And it encourages things like digital ticketing, food ordering, and virtual queuing. And what do these things have in common? Well, they're digital touch points at key parts of the guest journey. So whether it's entering the attraction, eating your lunch, or queuing for rides. So hopefully you can see that there is an opportunity to do much better. And it really is a chance for us to start to reinvent the attraction experience. And there's been no better time to do this, which again might sound odd because it's not been a great time for obviously many of us. And there's been huge struggles within the industry, and there still are. Just in the UK yesterday, there was talk of further restrictions. And, you know, it's scary, it's uncertain. But I think that's almost the reason why there's been no better time, because change is hard, change is scary, change is risky. But right now we're in a situation where your guests, when they arrive and come and book onto your attractions, they are expecting things to be different. In every part of life, like going to get your haircut in the example shown, or visiting your attraction, people are expecting things to be different. And that presents an opportunity to make changes as part of the new normal that will be beneficial to your guests, but also beneficial to your business. It might even help keep you in business. And these may be things that were deemed too risky before, because you'd be standing out from the crowd, trying to innovate. But now I think it's a case that if you're standing still and you're not doing that, then you'll be standing out in a bad way, and potentially be left behind. So I think there's such a shift, but there's such an opportunity here. So how do you get started? Well, the first thing you want to do is to map out your guest journey, so you've got that detailed picture of how that looks. But the level of detail you can see on the screen here is too high level. Even the detail part of it here is too high level. We need something more in depth. This is the kind of thing you want to start to map out. So this is an exercise for Post-it notes, sticky notes. You want to get together with your team, and it's important where you can to form a cross-functional group to follow this exercise. So making sure there's people that are representing marketing, operations, the commercial side of the business, the guest experience side of the business. And what you're wanting to do is look at that entire guest journey and overlay every friction point and pain point, every opportunity as well that you find along the way. And from there, we can explore how different digital touch points might be able to help influence those experiences, and really build up a clear picture of what you should do when, where the opportunities lie. So let's zoom in a little bit and go through these different rows. So the first one is the stage, and the stage is the high level area of the guest journey. So this could be the research you do before you visit, or the process of going to commit to the purchase and buy some tickets, or the process of planning your visit. And underneath that, you've got the step, and in each of these areas, you'll have one or more steps that users have to take to fulfill that particular stage. So for pre-visit planning, you might have a step for deciding what to do when you're there, a step for planning the weather, a step for checking how you're going to get there, transport, driving directions, etc. So this is the step down. Once you've got that outlined, we then have user pains that we can start to map out. So this is everything you can think of where the journey is not ideal. There is a pain point or there is a frustration. So if we look at ticket purchasing, you might list that the user interface is confusing, or you can't pay with PayPal. And, it's useful to leverage your team's knowledge, but some of these are going to come from feedback. If you've got surveys, if you've got guest feedback, you collect complaints and things like that, it's perfect to bring those to the table as well. And you really want to get out as many user pain points, friction points as possible. Just brainstorm, nothing is a bad idea. Get down as much as you can for each step along the journey. And then we can look at the opportunities. So this is when you can brainstorm on top. And these will often tie to the pain points, but you can add as many as possible, as many as you can think of. And so again, if we stick with the tickets example, then the opportunities are, for example, to increase the conversion rates because you've got confusing UI, etc. So again, get down as many of these opportunities that you can see as possible. And then we move on to implementation. And this is, okay, well, what could you do to actually make a positive change and implement something to improve this? So again, to stick with ticketing, the checkout journey is confusing. That is a pain point. There's an opportunity to increase the conversion rate. And so the implementation might be that you might think, well, we could go and hire a UX designer to experiment with that, with the flow and optimize that journey. That's something that you could do. Again, this is no idea is a bad idea at this stage. You want to work with your team to really get everything out of your brains that you possibly can do with regards to how you can implement some changes or what you could do to leverage the opportunities and remove those user pain points that you've identified in the previous steps. And then finally, we have a channel. So there are a number of digital channels you need to think about, and this is where we connect this to the digital guest journey. And so you've got websites, you've got email, you've got social media, you've got YouTube, you've got mobile apps, you've got digital signage. So you really need to think about all these different touch points and also just assign those to each step of which different channels you think can help at each step of the journey. Now, as part of this mapping, obviously having post-it notes and being together may be difficult given the climate we live in. But there are some fantastic virtual whiteboard software solutions out there that you can use. We use one called Miro. I think they have 3 whiteboards, I think, that you can use for free. And it's definitely worth downloading that with your team and doing this remotely. You can still collaborate around a virtual whiteboard in real time, see each other adding the post-it notes on whilst talking to each other on audio chat. So yeah, although the physical whiteboards may be difficult at the moment, it's almost better to do it digitally. We've been doing remote working for a while and have embraced this kind of way of working, but it'll give you that physical copy as well then that you can share around. You don't have to pull the post-its off the wall and lose them. You can go in and edit them at any time. So we'll definitely recommend Miro if you're looking to do this digitally. And then once you've mapped out that journey, you've mapped out all the stages, the steps, the pain points, the opportunities, the implementations you could do, and the different touch points. Then you want to go on to the second thing, which is to prioritize these. So we want to prioritize the most impactful actions that you could take to make improvements. And a good way to do this is to go through each potential implementation and tag it with the areas it could improve. And I think a good way to split out those areas is looking at guest satisfaction, revenue generation, and insights and data. So here's a potential opportunity we've got here to implement something. It's a weather Outlook email. So we could send a weather Outlook email to guests on the evening before their visit, and it could be tailored to the forecast. So it could, if it's give rain the next day, it could say, don't forget to pack your umbrella. If it's give sunshine, it could say, don't forget to pack the kids' swim gear, for the water park or whatever it may be. And so you can see here with an emoji, and this is just within Miro, but you can still mark this up as well, just using pens and other little mini post-its in a physical environment, is we've put a happy face there. This indicates that this will drive guest satisfaction. It won't help revenue, it won't help insight, but it will help guest satisfaction. Another example might be that you want to implement mobile food ordering. So the ability to order food on your phone whilst at the venue. In this case, we've got a light bulb that indicates it's going to drive insight, because you're going to be able to collect the exact details of what an individual purchases and their purchase history, and be able to use that for other things. It's got a smiley face because it's going to improve the experience. They're not going to have to wait in line. They could maybe pre-order their food, etc. And then it's also going to increase revenue, because we're hypothesizing here that the average transaction value is going to be higher if you're transacting on a mobile device, and there's lots of data to support that is likely to be the case. The other thing you might then want to go a step further and do is implement a matrix. So this is a basic 3x3 matrix, and it helps you to weigh up the estimated cost to implement some of these ideas against the estimated impact of the change. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's designed to be very rough. So we've got 3 levels of cost, 3 levels of impact. And once you've started to lay these on to this matrix, what you'll be left with, hopefully, is one or more post-it notes in the top right-hand corner, which is where we have high impact and low cost. And that is your low-hanging fruit, and that is where you can begin to start implementing things. Now, the third step and the final step is really, really important. So many businesses will implement and then they'll move on. But there's a crucial step that's missing if you do that, and that is measuring the results. So using the areas that you identified that you could help, you can basically call out how you're going to measure those particular suggested benefits, and do that as part of implementing the change. So make sure you've got a mechanism to understand what the actual impact has been after the implementation has happened. So if we think of an example, if you were to add mobile food ordering, you could add a question about it to your surveys, and then do a cohort analysis afterwards to see if people who ordered food through the mobile channel had a better experience in numerous areas. With revenue, you might have a mechanism where to measure your, you basically measure your average transaction value, your ATV, and you compare those who use mobile ordering to those who just had a walk-up sale for a given period to understand what impact that had on revenue. And I think thinking about this purposefully up front, making sure as part of implementing the idea that you have, and you implement a way that you're going to be able to measure it, it does 2 things really. I think the first thing it does is it increases your personal understanding of what works and what doesn't work at your specific attraction. And that can help you be more effective in whatever role you're doing. But it also gives you leverage to do more and to go further by proving the results and the ROI that you've generated for the changes that you're making. So it gives you the ammunition you need to get everyone on board and to keep experimenting. And experiment is the key word, really. What we're doing here is applying a scientific method to what we do. So we're coming up with a hypothesis, of potential things that could happen and what impact we think they will have. We are implementing those. We're implementing them in a sensible order, which is the high impact, low cost ones first. And then we're measuring the results. And once we've done that, we can report that back to the business and gain some momentum and iteratively over time improve that guest experience, improve that business performance. And you may also use the results you get back to further tweak where you've placed the other implementation ideas on your matrix, because you might be surprised by a result once you've measured it. That is often the case. You might be surprised in a good way or a bad way, but regardless of which way, that may affect how you view other ideas that you have. And so you might start to reprioritize or recalibrate what you think you're going to get from your other ideas and get better over time as well at anticipating which things are most likely to actually work versus which ones are probably won't. Now, obviously, I have a lot of experience when it comes to the role that apps specifically can play as part of the digital guest journey. But what I know is that a lot of people don't. So when you're looking at opportunities going through this exercise on your website, social media, email, things that you can do to improve the experience, to improve business results, I think that would be fairly straightforward. But what I thought it would be useful to give you is an insight into what is possible with apps today, because as I say, not everyone realizes exactly what can be done in that space. And it's worth considering this, particularly for the on-site section of your journey as you map it out. And so to do that, I'd like you to meet Lucy. Lucy has planned a short family break to a theme park during the school holidays. She has 2 children. They both love rides and seeing the animals. And she's booked a family day ticket and reserved a room in the park's on-site hotel. So as soon as Lucy made the purchase for her visit, she was encouraged to download the app and make the most of her visit. And that's what she did. Now, if you fast forward to the morning of her visit, Lucy's really excited. And as she wakes up, she reaches for her phone and she sees a notification. Now, the app knows that she's at home. It knows she's visiting today. So it's delivered a message to say, we can't wait to welcome you. And not only that, but it offers driving directions and traffic information in a tap. Now, when Lucy does arrive at the admissions area of the attraction, the app automatically presents her entrance ticket for her to scan at the gate. So there's no paper, there's no waiting in line. She can just scan at the turnstiles and enter. Lucy then reaches for the app as she comes through the turnstiles, and she explores the interactive map. And it shows her exact location, and it lists all of the rides, attractions, and facilities around her. She quickly filters the rides down by age and height to narrow down what's suitable for her kids. And she finds the perfect place to start. It's Flight of the Pterosaur, which of course is a real ride at Portland's Park. So shout out to Portland's Park there. It's just a 1-minute walk away, and even better, there's no wait for it. So she taps to get a boarding pass for the ride. She arrives at the ride, presents the boarding pass, and gets straight on with her family. Now, after lots of screaming, they leave the ride, and Lucy gets an alert saying that her photo is ready. So she taps the alert and she can see her photo in app. She decides to purchase it, and she can instantly share that photo on Facebook and Instagram. It's now time for another ride, but there's an hour wait for this one. Now, thankfully, the ride is using a virtual queue. So she joins the queue using the app and carries on exploring. And as she's walking through the park, she receives a notification saying that there's a show starting nearby. Now, this is a magic show, and the family love magic shows, so they decide to go and watch it. So she taps the notification and gets directions. She's given the quickest route to the show, and she can access an accessible route as well. So she heads over to the show, and after a fantastic time watching the magic show, Lucy and her family leave, and they get a heads up that it's their turn to ride. Well, it's almost their turn to ride. So they go and enjoy their second ride of the day. Now, all the adrenaline has made them feel hungry. So it's time for lunch. The kids are asking for burgers. That's their favorite. So Lucy searches in the app for outlets that serve burgers and starts browsing the menus. Perfect. We've got a burger meal. So Lucy configures her meal. She checks out where she sees complimentary suggestions. that can be added in a tap. And then she pays with Apple Pay or Google Pay immediately. As soon as her order is ready, she gets a notification and she can see that her order is ready to collect. She presents it at the mobile order collection point and she has her meal. Now, as soon as they finish their burgers, the app presents another alert. So as the children love animals, they've been notified of an upcoming elephant feeding session. So they excitedly head over, and after spending a good while watching the elephants, the app presents information on the conservation work that the park is doing for those elephants. And there's an option actually to adopt an elephant as well. Now, it's been a long day, and the family head back to the hotel. And as they do so, they're automatically checked in. So again, no need to wait in line at the check-in desk. And when they arrive, they can actually use their device as their room key to get straight into the room, no waiting around. And now they've got time to use the app to check out the entertainment schedule and make a dinner reservation. Now, once the visit is over, Lucy is asked to leave her feedback. And after leaving a 5-star review, she's directed through to TripAdvisor, where she leaves an equally generous account of her visit with her family. Now, that was one example experience really for one guest, but depending on when Lucy visited, who she was with, where she was on park, we could have played that back hundreds of times and it would have been different for each guest. So what an app allows you to do is be personalized to each guest and provide a concierge in their pocket, if you like. So it's not just being reactive, it's anticipating what they might do and helping with that. And that is just the mobile app touchpoints. I wanted to raise some awareness of what was possible for you. But when you combine the different digital touchpoints that we've already talked about across email and website and social and videos and all sorts of things you can do, there's so much we can do to make the experience better. And there's no better time to do so. So another thing I just want to mention before we wrap up is that we have some fantastic resources on our website. We have articles, we have guides, reports, webinars, all on the subject of improving guest experience, of trends, things that are changing with COVID-19. There's lots of reports and data and things you can access. So I would encourage you to head to Attractions.io/learn. And if you want to reach out to me, my email address is mark@Attractions.io. I am always very much happy to engage and chat about challenges and things that industry colleagues are going through. We obviously have a unique position of working with a lot of different attractions in the space of technology and improving the guest experience all around the world. So if you have any questions or things that you'd like to reach out and discuss, please do let me know. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure to go through this session with you. I hope that you are able to take some of these ideas, work on them with your teams, and implement some of these changes to have an impact on your attraction. And I wish you the very best as we continue to get through COVID-19. And hopefully we'll all be able to come out of this together with an even better experience for guests and an even more efficient business operation. Thank you all very much.